Hello and welcome to my latest weekly video news from Madison's. Well, what a strange week this has been. Desperately sad to see the news at the moment, and my heart genuinely breaks actually when I see what's going on in Europe. Unbelievable, the poor Ukrainians who are suffering so greatly. The news often makes me quite cross. We have our own sort of spin on things. But at the moment, it's making me desperately sad. And for anybody with family in Ukraine, then my deepest sympathies to you. What does it all mean for the world of property? Well, let's have a look at what's going on because of the headline effects of this, first of all. So Russia saw a huge drop in the value of its ruble, went down by 20%, and that's as a result of the central banking system being cut off to Russia. Effectively, it's called SWIFT. It's a system whereby money is sent around the world, and that has been closed to Russia, so they can't get money in or out at the moment. There's talk about how they've got these huge war chests gathered of money, but the reality is if you can't trade it with the rest of the world, it becomes almost valueless, and that's why you're seeing these huge run on banks as people are desperate to get their hands on their money, understanding that if further money isn't going to come in, there could be a pressure on those reserves. And it's looking as a result of that Russia is heading for an environment of stagflation. It's a very rare phenomenon. You don't see it very often. And it's basically when you have really high inflation raging away and then very low economic growth. So a really strange environment in which you've got that complete change. Sorry, lovely group of children. They always walk past. Sometimes I miss them. Today I did not. Anyway, they pull funny faces at me. Sometimes. Anyway, so strange environment of stagflation for Russia, very rare, very unusual. And I'll talk about inflation in our country in a minute and what this could all mean. Of course, there's been some measures that have come out. So Priti Patel has said that 100,000 refugees can seek refuge in our country if they have family already here. It's felt that's not enough. The EU has already come out and said that there will be no need to apply for refugee status for the first 3 years for anyone in Ukraine. So Priti has said that they can stay here for a year. That's felt to not be going far enough at all to help. And the National Residential Association of Landlords has been seeking clarity on how landlords can put forward that they would be happy to house those Ukrainian refugees. So looking for clarity on how those empty properties can be put to good use or help can be given, as everyone is so desperate to give their help at the moment, can't they, in any way they can. And of course, another initiative we've seen, Boris Johnson saying that he will clamp down on prime central London property being used to possibly hide dirty money, so money that is being laundered through people with association to the Kremlin. It's been something they've been looking at for a while. So these very expensive London properties get bought by these shell companies. They're registered offshore. It's very difficult to see who the direct ownership of that is. It's a big trail that's hidden. And Boris, as a result of this, he's been wanting to clamp down on it for a while. He's now said that he will definitely clamp down on it and be looking to introduce that legislation this week. They think it will take up to a year to actually implement because it is so complicated, but it'll basically mean that if you do have individuals in those shell companies who are connected to the Kremlin and using dirty money, that will all be revealed as well. So they're probably feeling pretty cross about all what's going on as well. And of course, what does it all mean for the UK? Well, of course, we've been in a raging inflationary environment for a little while now. Inflation will only probably worsen as a result of this. Russia is the second biggest oil exporter in the world. The UK actually only takes 3% of its oil from Russia. It hasn't actually a huge reliance on it. But of course, as other countries see their oil supply reducing, they will look to come to where we get most of our oil from, and so prices will rise. It's already gone to above $100 a barrel. That's big. Expected to rise to $130 a barrel. That's really big. So energy prices set to go up even more. And of course, Ukraine is known as the basket of Europe. It's a huge bread producer. We again don't get much of our bread from, or our grain from, Ukraine. But again, if our usual supplies are being called upon to supply other countries that wouldn't normally do, so prices will rise. So normally inflation, as I've said many times, is controlled by a rise in interest rates, and we have already seen 2 interest rates recently, but any geopolitical crisis does tend to make central banks a bit more cautious, and this would absolutely be deemed to be one of those. So what you often see in this sort of thing happening is actually interest rates being held because they don't want to put more pressure on people's purses, and interestingly therefore we won't have that control on inflation. So be really interesting to see what happens and the measures that are taken soon. So just a bit of a summary there of what's going on and what the impacts could be in the property world and for us in the UK. And again, anybody who's got anyone suffering there, heartfelt sympathies. Let's just end with something a lot more positive and a lovely new property that I have launched in Southborough. It's got a really special location, this one, tucked away down a private drive. You feel like you're in the middle of the country, and yet you are minutes away from all the great amenities that Southborough has to offer. The house itself is wonderful. It's got a little annex that can easily be incorporated back into the main house. Really spacious accommodation, 4 bedrooms. So yeah, it's very generous, very nice, very attractive, beautiful gardens. Definitely one to look at. On a guide of 935,000. So if you'd like the details on that, please give us a call. Well, stay well, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye bye.